I met Pat's baby last week, but I'm really glad that the biggest thing he has to say about me is that I'm funny and I have red hair. Cool. That friendship is paying off with the comedy circuit. Hi, everybody. My name is Olivia. Been in the Netherlands for about a year now. And when I moved here, I decided that I was going to do a really cool new thing where I was only going to have sex with people who were nice to me. And then, for about the first 4 months that I was here, I was basically only around Dutch people. So, it's not that never having sex is a bad thing. It's just that if you're not going for that, it can get a little bleak. And so, after a few months, I was like, you know what, screw it, we're getting rid of the rule. I'll have sex with all these Dutch men who are honest with me, that'll be fine. And then, I got rid of the rule and didn't make a difference. Turns out Dutchmen are just not that into me. And I get it. I'm American. I'm kind of whiny. I'm not tall enough to be Dutch, but I'm not short enough to be interesting here. That's fine. And honestly, my experiences with dating haven't been amazing thus far. Like, it turns out even the pros of being a woman aren't really pros in dating. You're like, oh, I can't wait to outlive my life partner. That'll be a cool 3 to 5 years at the very end. And I've dated men on both ends of the nice guy spectrum. So I've dated like just straight up jerks who are afraid of vaginas, but I've also dated self-proclaimed feminists who have somehow also managed to make that suck. Like, when you're kissing them, you can feel how proud of themselves they are because they think you're a person. And there used to be this thing in high school where if you didn't know what to do when you were making out with someone, that you should just write the alphabet with your tongue. And with these guys, you can just feel them writing, "I'm not like the other boys," over and over again. And you're like, we get it, Cody. You have sisters. And when they're going down on you, it's not that it's bad, it's just that every time they come up, they look like they've just single-handedly closed the wage gap. And that's, it's just a lot of energy to be coming at you when you're in a vulnerable position, I get frustrated because I feel like we got no time to be shitty to men. Like, any time that I complain about men, like some guy will swoop up out of nowhere and be like, well, if a guy said that about women, you would all be so angry. And part of me is like, you know what, that's fair. I get it. If I'm for equality, I should be for equality for everybody. But another part of me is like, you had 10,000 years to say whatever the fuck you wanted. And if any woman complained, you would be like, well, should we shut her in a closet? And then even the nice guys would be like, maybe we shouldn't put her in a closet. And then they would apologize to you while they helped shut you in the closet. And I just have a lot of mixed feelings about that. I will say, despite all of that, surprisingly, I did eventually end up dating a man. He's great. It turns out that if you're an American in the Netherlands that Dutchmen aren't into, you don't have to be alone forever. You just have to find a Canadian who hates himself. And I think that's really beautiful. I've had a lot of big moments since we started dating. But some of them were the big moments of like, oh, I finally know what unconditional love and support is like, and that's beautiful, but like nobody cares about that. My other big moment was the other day. His apartment building has a cleaner because he's a real adult, and I had the first moment of my entire life where I actually felt like a grown-up when I was sprinting around my apartment desperately trying to clean before the cleaner got there, and I finally understood my mother for the first time in my life. And I've had a brief moment of maybe understanding her. When I first started driving in high school, I'm from Los Angeles, and everybody drives everywhere because it is a garbage city created by morons. And I've gotten very spoiled since I moved here. Like, I had to walk 15 minutes to go to Pat's house to meet his baby the other day, and I was like, oh, the commute, what am I gonna do? And in LA, you'll get someone's address and you'll be like, oh my God, it's only like 45 minutes on the freeway, like he's in the neighborhood, that's amazing. And when I started driving, I realized we had spent our entire lives driving to a soccer park a half-hour drive from our house. And the first time that I did it, I got home and I was like, Mom, what the fuck have we been doing? Like, there's a soccer park 5 minutes from our house. Why are we going to Balboa? And she was like, oh, but you and your sister had friends there, and like, you wanted to play there. And I had to be like, Mom, I don't know how to tell you this, but I was not worth it. Like, this is crazy. Part of it is just because I just don't deserve it as a person. But another part is because I really didn't have that many friends at that soccer park. I don't know if that was just my mom over-evaluating how likable I was as a child. But either way, I get it. Both her love for me and why no one was friends with me. I think I'm a slightly difficult person to be around. I do tend to err on the side of the dramatic. This morning, I took a shower and it flooded. And I had to dig through the drain, and I pulled it out, and there was an enormous clump of my own hair in it. And my first thought was the quote from the movie Spy Kids 3, when they say, do you think that God stays in heaven because he too is afraid of what he has created? And first of all, that's an insane quote for them to write into a children's movie. But second, it felt very right as I said it out loud alone on my knees this morning to my shower hair. And that's why I understand when people don't want to hang out with me. The second thing is that I think I'm full of contradictions. So like, I can be super bold and out there. I used a tampon the first time I got my period. I didn't do it right, and it was a weird day, but that energy has stayed with me throughout my life. I moved to the Netherlands with no plan, no job, no family, no friends, no connections. But on the same token, I went to a very cool bar, and I couldn't figure out how the door worked, so I just stood watching it for about 10 minutes. And then I was like, all right, I got it. I got this. I went up, I tried to pull it, it wouldn't open, so I just left. And then I did a lap around the block, and then I just sat by the canal like a serial killer, watching the entrance, waiting for someone else to go in. I realized it was just a push. It was the right door. I just got it slightly wrong the first time, and was like, I can't go in there until everyone who saw me fuck up has left. But I didn't go home. I stayed, and I was proud of myself for that. I just stayed by the canal for another 10 minutes, and then I eventually went inside like a real person. So growth is possible, which I think is also very beautiful. What's my next joke? Oh yeah, another example of my contradictions. In high school, another reason why the people at the soccer park didn't want to hang out with me is I was a huge straight edge. But not in like an okay way. I was just an asshole about it. So like in 9th grade, an actual quote from me was, people who smoke weed are idiots. And then I got to college and I did the classic thing of being like, I think I'm one of those people who can like do heroin without getting addicted to it, you know? I think I can handle that. And so I didn't know how to break it to my mother. Back to our original point. That driving me to the soccer park wasn't worth it. But I will say, the other time that I have fully identified with her was when I was in college, and I was dating a guy, and we were doing that cool thing where we dated for 3 months, and I was anxious the entire time because I never knew where we stood. And I didn't want to have the conversation where I was like, hey, we've been having sex like 4 nights a week and holding hands and cuddling, and you've cried to me about your relationship with your mother about 10 times. And I don't want to be like, hey, what are we, you know? Because God forbid you think that I care about you. As I said, I'm very glad I'm not single anymore. Thank God for my Canadian boyfriend who's here. Shout out, Andrew. Yeah, I recommend everybody find a Canadian. Sarah's here. Are you single?
Yeah.
Definitely. So everyone hit her up after the show because it's great. But I was dating this guy senior year of college, and I was incredibly stressed out, and I finally decided at a party where he had been flirting with another girl the entire night, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be an adult, and I'm gonna just say what I think to him. And so at the end of the party, I said, hey, listen, if you ever don't want to do this, just let me know. And it'll be fine if we're just friends, but it will make me really anxious if I don't know where we're at. So please just tell me if you don't want to do it. Just have the respect for me to be honest with me, which I thought was an adult thing to do. And he said to me, I never know what I want. And Yeah, and I had another moment of understanding my parents, because as a child, I was always like, I don't understand why my parents won't speak to me like I'm an adult. And I would be like, hey mom, why can't I go to Sasha's house? And she would be like, you just can't. And I would say, why can't I? And she would say, you'll understand when you're older. And I would get incredibly annoyed because I would be like, I deserve to be spoken to like an adult. But the truth is, the adult answer to that question is, you can't go to Sasha's house because we haven't met her parents, and we're afraid that they're gonna tie you up in the basement and torture you and murder you, because that's the thing that happens in the adult world. And I wouldn't have been prepared to hear that because I was a child. And if they had said that to me, I would have cried for roughly 10 hours, and they would have had to explain it to me. And as I stood there, staring at Logan's face in disbelief, I finally understood how my parents had felt all of those years. Because it turns out that when you're an adult person saying adult things to another person, it is an incredibly frustrating and worthless experience if the person that you're talking to is a fucking child. And that is what I understood. However, I'm almost done, Pat. I recently discovered that that child, Logan, has his own child on Facebook, which is horrifying because he's not ready for it. However, there are two things that I think are positive about that. One is that maybe one day he'll understand where I'm coming from. And two is that even if he doesn't, he finally has someone to hang out with who's at his own emotional level. And I think that's really cool. All right, I'll get out of here.